Macro doesn't matter unless we're at the extremes. The reason we've been focused on it over the last few months is we were potentially at the extremes, right? 145% tariffs, huge shock to the economy. I think we're back in a more normal space. My base case has always been that the government has outlawed recessions. And so one way or the other, they were going to come through with stimulus or with a reduction of tariffs or with interest rate reductions to keep things on a pretty steady path. I think that's where we are now. I think the crypto market will be driven by crypto-specific factors for the next few months, barring a massive macro shock, which I think we're not going to see. I think we're on a pretty normalized path now.
And when you look at the business cycle, obviously there's this big growth scare. Right?
Yep.
Is that the end? Is it a growth scare? Like, do you see it going beyond that?
Again,
unemployment,
essentially not. I do think history has suggested that when pushed against the wall, governments come through with stimulus. And so even if the economy slows down a little bit, which I'm not sure it will. I mean, maybe a point on that. Tariffs are a negative shock to the economy, to be sure. But trade is not all of the economy, and it's offset existential risks to Bitcoin. Was that the government would ban it or seize it. And instead, Bitcoin co-opted the U.S. government. And if you co-opt the U.S. government, you're going to co-opt a lot more governments along the way. So I think that's a great example of a really positive news story that was just suppressed and forgotten, but it's not gone away. It will come back. It will spring us forward as people realize what a big deal it is.
Okay, so feeling good about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Clear thesis on Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Let's put that to the side for a second. I think you and I would agree, and I think most of our listeners, if you don't have a good portion of your portfolio allocated to Bitcoin, you're making a mistake. Don't make that mistake anymore.
Right.
Risk reward is just, it's the best
too good.
Trade. It's too good. ETH.
Yeah.
Up 50%. Let's talk about ETH, but I want to talk more broadly about altcoins, because this is the question that keeps coming up. We've all been waiting for altcoin season. We're all thinking, is it going to happen? Is this a different cycle? Are we not going to get an altcoin season? So before we talk about altcoin season, talk first about ETH. Up 50%. What, in your view, why is it up so big in the past few weeks?
Well, I think it realized it was in a hole and it stopped digging. Any turnaround usually has a few positive developments, and ETH did. They were just waiting for an excuse to buy, and they got that excuse, the combination of the leadership change and the Pectra upgrade.
Okay, so from here, as we look forward to the rest of this cycle, and especially for our listeners, they're not just going to hold Bitcoin, right? You know, our audience.
Me neither.
That's exactly where I'm going with it. Okay, so when you let me frame this. You had a great comparison in your recent memo where you compared investing in non-Bitcoin crypto assets to investing in the internet in 2004. What can history teach us here?
Yeah, so we went back, if you go back to 2004 and you thought the internet was going to be a big deal, you might have picked the best company in the best space, which was Google. Search was dominant, Google was the leader, and that would have been a great investment. You'd be up 6,900%. That's pretty good. But the internet was a general purpose technology. You could also use it for B2B software like Salesforce, or you could use it for streaming video like Netflix, or you can use it for shopping like Amazon. There are these other use cases. Doesn't take away from the fact that Google is an incredible business.
Your assets. And a lot of our audience has made that mistake in the past. Is that still a concern for you?
You have to decide which kind of investor you are. There are two kinds of investors. One is an investor who doesn't have time to pay attention on a day-to-day basis, and they should just buy a diversified portfolio of altcoins and hold them for 10 years.
They should buy Bitwise index.
Or they could buy our index. They could do it themselves. They could buy, not just one. They should pick 10 and just ride them forever and be comfortable with it's going to go up and it's way down. If you're a more active investor, I think you both need to think about timing. And I actually think in this cycle, more than in previous cycles, you have to think about asset selection. Okay. I think in previous altcoin cycles, it has been a rising tide that lifts. I don't think we're going to see that anymore. I think investors are more focused on fundamentals. Look at what's happened in the two largest over the last 2 years. Solana ripped in 2024. Why? Because its fundamentals were good. Use was up, transaction activity was up, execution was great. Ethereum cratered. Why? For the exact reason. Why has ETH turned the corner? Because it started to improve on the fundamental basis. So I think there'll be an altcoin season in that the share of the market controlled by alt ones on a revenue basis or a user basis, they need a lot of growth, right? They need a lot of growth. And so, look, I'm bullish long-term on the L1 space. I even think it's a little bit of a contrarian bet, but could it chop sideways for 9 months? It absolutely could. I think on the public company side, I think there's some real gems that are delivering enormous growth and trading at relatively constrained multiples.
Right?
Yeah. I think it's actually interesting. I think the reason it trades at constrained multiples is that TradFi investors are afraid of crypto, and crypto investors would rather speculate on tokens. So they're like an absence of buyers, and that means there's a value play in the corporate equity space. And they're really growing at enormous rates. You mentioned Robinhood and Coinbase, I think, will be two of the largest financial institutions in the world in the next 10 years. Right. So enormous, and there's a whole pipeline. I think DeFi may be a little special, actually. Okay. I'm really optimistic about DeFi for two reasons. One, use is up. A long way to go there.
Okay, so I just want to go back to the L1 trade for a second.
Yeah.
Because the thing that I'm really caught up on right now is I don't think any of us need to be convinced in our audience that general purpose blockchains as a way to transact value online are the future for stablecoins for so many use cases.
Yep.
So there is an L1. It is going to win and is going to be the chain. How early is it? Do you think that it's going to be a Solana or Ethereum? We have so much block space, right?
So much block space.
Much block space.
It's effectively free.
And it's not. I think we're only getting more every month. Basically, there's another chain that comes on. So, like, how do you frame that in your mind? Do you just say, okay, I'm going to go invest in the big ones and pick a basket of them and keep it safe and not try to pick the one winner? Is that the? I
mean, that's how we invest, right? We created an index fund, so that's how we do it. That's how I do it in my own portfolio. I do think legislation ran into a wall. I think that was crypto not recognizing the importance of what's going on.
I don't think most crypto people are paying attention to stablecoin legislation. I don't think they understand it. I think a lot of them downplay it because they're so focused on the decentralization that they're thinking, well, who cares what they do? But the truth is, we need to understand what they're doing. Can you take us back for a second? When you say this shift happened, what originally happened with the Genius Act, and then what happened last week?
Yeah, so it passed out of committee with bipartisan support because, again, it appeals to Republicans and Democrats. What happened last week is they tried to vote it through on the Senate. In the Senate, you need 60 votes out of 100 to move something forward, and they didn't get there. They got like 48 or 49. And the reason was Democrats don't like the Trump administration's association with crypto. And so even if they agreed effectively with the policy initiatives, they shut it down and insisted on more. Yeah, it's like
politics.
It's just politics against what's actually good for the 90+%.
Wow.
And you just can't ever trust DC.
Unfortunately.
It's true. It's true. But it really does matter. And I would say for the people who don't think it matters, think back to the launch of ETFs. ETFs needed regulatory approval. Plenty of people said we don't need ETFs. ETFs came in, they bought $40 billion of Bitcoin, and they're one of the reasons price is up. This real world stuff does have an impact.
Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Support the channel by liking this video, subscribing, and enabling post notifications for more content on crypto and digital assets. Check out our other videos and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your engagement helps with the YouTube algorithm and keeps the content coming. Thanks for your